Cities across the world are known by their skylines. A simple feature building, set of towers, or the separation between peaks gives cities those unique features we all come to recognise. Not only that, but a skyline represents the heart of a city, a place you can look at from afar and feel the bustle without even being there. So having spent well in excess of 800 hours on this city without a single skyscraper in sight, the time has finally come to put Fewladelphia on the map. Let's build a downtown. Now, before we dive in, I have fixed a couple of things from the last episode that lots of you critiqued, like these trucks. Yes, they were the wrong way. I think that's better now. And then our bus station. Yes, I had put the stops on the wrong side. That as well is now fixed. So actually this outer bus lane is kind of pointless, but I've decided to leave it in as it could be a sort of extra, maybe coaches or something could stop there on the outside. It's got a wider pavement as well, so people could technically disembark, just not onto the platform areas. But also, speaking about our bus station, before I do too much more, I would actually like to get some international buses in because we don't actually have any intercity bus lines at all in the city. And just looking at our rail lines, if we make the most of better transit view, so the purple one is our inner city line, which runs all the way from Atkinson through the city and into the downtown, and the orange is our intercity line, which actually curves around and goes out here to our Fewnadelphia County connection. So we don't actually have any intercity connections from Oregon, which is over here, or Solitude, which is over here. So I think it would be nice to make this a bit of an intercity bus hub area where people can come into the city from roundabouts, and then it's easy connections onto the trains to get around the city if they so wish. So let's just go ahead and place those. So we're going to utilise, I think we'll utilise this platform here for one of them and this platform for the other, just so these buses aren't intercrossing. And then we still have two more stops that we could use potentially for more local buses. But I'm kind of thinking with the downtown in mind, we don't want too many buses around here. We want to make the most of trams and also subway, which we will be adding at some point. So let's start this route here, and we're going to go out to Oregon over this side. And then we'll need to create another stop to come back in there, being that it is a divided highway. And then we can just connect that up. Now, the other thing we do want to look at here is where the hell the bus route is going, because at the moment they're all funneling through this interchange. So I do also want to add in an interchange up here, but we might do that later this episode, maybe in the next one. So this will kind of change, but I think for the moment, let's potentially just add a waypoint to stop them from doing some crazy stuff. So like here, let's get them to actually use our bus lanes. Obviously, the way they're going out, they're using that road quite nicely, but coming in is not so great. So I'm thinking we should shift the waypoint to here. Yeah, which just brings it out onto this main road and cuts down on the buses travelling through this city centre area. Now this one's also kind of up because they're going out and through the convention centre here. So I think we do just need another waypoint at this point here. Now the difficulty is we can't turn out of here and loop back this way. So maybe the waypoint is just here, and then that at least keeps them off this internal convention centre road, which I definitely do not think is made for buses. So I'm going to rename this line, and we'll just make sure it's not the CO bus. Let's have a regular bus on this one. And 9, yeah, we definitely don't need that. Let's make it, I mean, it's probably not enough realistically, but let's make that 5. And we'll also change the colour of it. And then we can add in our second bus line from this platform, which is going to head out to Solitude. Now, unfortunately, we can't make this any less than 9 buses, which means we actually have 14 from this in total that we're going to need to make sure that we've got capacity for. So we do have a big bus station over here in Tinney. And at the moment, this extra garage with 10 is deactivated, so let's activate that. And then let's also activate the other extra garage that we placed as kind of a failsafe. So that will cover all of the buses that we need for out here. I think longer term, we definitely need to get a bus garage out here, so it's a little bit closer proximity to the downtown. And this area is likely to be a little bit more industrial, I think, out this side, and particularly towards the waterfront as well. So there'll be places that we can put it, but for the moment that will do. And we've got the CO buses running. Why is that? I think it's just going to be a case of they're going to have to go back to the terminal and switch over. So eventually that should fix itself. There we go. We've got some nice intercity buses coming into the terminal. And I have just remembered as well, we do want to also do our waypoints on the Solitude line, which seems to be going a seriously weird way. And that's a little bit better. Alright, with that done, should we get some skyscrapers in? But just before we do that, a quick word from today's video sponsor, which is Instant Gaming. Are you looking to pick up a brand new game or any of the Cities Skylines franchise DLCs? Or perhaps you're just looking for a cozy little thing to fill the time in between your city building? Well, Instant Gaming has the answer. They offer huge discounts on a whole variety of games across both PC and consoles. And if you use the link in the description of this video, it also helps to support this channel. Plus, there's a link to our monthly giveaway where someone in the FewCandy community wins a game of their choice every single month. So if you're in the market for a new game, look no further than Instant Gaming. Go ahead, bag yourself a deal. So of course we have to take a little look at Philly before we dive into our skyline, and there's one key thing which I have pointed out before, which is these two towers here. One with a radio mast on top and one without, but generally kind of similar architectural styles. Definitely a key feature of the Philadelphia skyline and something that I'd like to do something similar with for Fewladelphia for sure. The one really key thing I do want to look at, just in terms of shape of skyline, is the number of tall buildings that we have. So obviously there's a lot of tall buildings in here, but there's only 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe that are really kind of peaking that height, and then the rest of them drop down from that. So when we're looking at our skyline, we don't want to get loads of buildings all of the same height and loads of super massive tall ones. We want to have a really nice variation and a gradual drop down in height around it. The other thing is here as well is we've got this sort of slightly older looking building. I actually don't know the history of Philadelphia, and I was trying to look this up, but I don't know the name of this building. Maybe someone could tell me in the comments, but I was wondering if maybe this was one of the original sort of skyscrapers here, because it has that sort of slightly older look and these modern skyscrapers built up around it. So I like the idea of doing something similar to that, one sort of old classic building with other modern development around it. Now the other key thing here is just what is surrounding these very tall skyscrapers and the spacing in between them. So you can see there's actually quite a lot of air in between the tallest buildings that we have here. It's kind of quite spacey, but in and around it we've got some pretty tall buildings in themselves lining some of these streets. Like here you can just see the height of all of these buildings. But mixed into that is some really much smaller, lower buildings. Like if we come over here, I think it is, yeah, we zoom in, we've got some row houses. Literally right up next to some of these huge skyscrapers here. And architectural style-wise as well, we're obviously in Northeast US, so the Northeast US pack is very much going to come into play here. We've got some of these big, blocky buildings mixed in with more modern glass buildings in here as well. But also some quite kind of almost European classical style buildings. There's quite a few of these actually around in Philadelphia. We come over here for instance as well, so I'm feeling a bit of obvious evolution and maybe even a touch of European assets, not too many, but definitely some. But yeah, there's a huge amount of variation in height around some of these buildings. So like here, we're up next to some of the tallest buildings that you can see here. And we've actually got some pretty small kind of row buildings here, what looks like, well, what I would assume is a cinema with that frontage to it. And it's obviously signs where the city has been changed and developed over time, and that's what I really love about this. Like, look at that huge step up to this building next to it as well, next to these smaller kind of row style buildings there. We also have car parks mixed in, very important, we want to include that, but there is a lot of street parking around Philadelphia as well. Now the other thing I do just want to point out before we go in is actually the positioning of it. So we've obviously replicated somewhat, at least in our own way, the sunken highway, Logan Square, coming onto the JFK Love Plaza and the City Hall here. Now most of these tall skyscrapers sit, if we zoom further out, in this kind of block essentially between City Hall and this roundabout here. So our city is a completely different orientation, but I want to kind of take this in mind and keep that central business district limited to essentially 3 or 4 blocks maybe away from our City Hall. So if we head back into the game, what that means here is we've got our makeshift City Hall that will become more functional as time goes on, trust me. And we've obviously got our roundabout on our main avenue coming in here. Now we have got this central avenue strip here too, which definitely needs some big focal point buildings up against it, I think. And we've obviously got our clock tower right in the centre of it, so the view up here is going to be rather spectacular. But I do think this sort of central section here is where we want to concentrate a lot of those taller buildings, and then we'll sort of filter that out as we go down either side. So what are we actually going to put in? What I have decided is, because it is such a northeast US city, I am actually, and I've been heavily debating this, my members and patrons, you'll know, I've had a couple of little planning episodes now, loads of discussion in our Discord with my members and patrons about what on earth this skyline should look like. And actually, originally, I was thinking maybe 2 of these, but we've pared it back. We're going to go for 1. But this is going to be the absolute peak in height, and I've been struggling with the fact it is so tall, but actually once we start to get in buildings around it, it doesn't look so bad. But yes, this is going to be the tallest building in our skyline, and it's going to really sort of stand out as a major centre point for our city. And of course, it being classic northeast style, it's just going to fit perfectly, I think, into our classic northeast downtown for Fewladelphia. So with this one, because it's so tall, I kind of think it probably wouldn't have been necessarily built on the main avenue street. So we're going to just put it off actually to the side street over here. But yes, this is the actual functional Imperial State Building. So it is a office. It has 252 employees, which is definitely not enough for a building of this statue, but it is what it is. And we'll see that fill up. Now, I have actually forgotten to mention something crucial at the start of this episode. The reason why this was so delayed is because I was waiting for the update, which had some major fixes, particularly to office demand. And as you can see, we've gone from 0 office demand to maxed out. And even now that I've placed this massive high-density signature office building, we've still got that office demand in here. So yeah, that just goes to show we definitely had it in our city. It just wasn't showing for whatever reason. And if you want to take a quick look at stats as well before we start the downtown, 13.7% unemployment, not too shabby. And our education, where there was also fixes, is actually reasonably well balanced. It's not too bad. But of course, we're going to come on to that in the downtown a little bit later on. So the next thing I do want to think about is the interesting point, like the 2 towers that we saw in Philadelphia, and how we can translate that into game here. And what I'm actually planning to use for that is the Peony building, which is actually just an office signature building from the base game. It's nothing particularly special about it, but when we place it in, you can see it's actually almost as tall as the Imperial State. Now, I kind of want to make sure that the Imperial State building is definitely the tallest building by a fair little bit in the downtown, and everything else is slightly less than that. So with the Peony building, we're going to use static ploppables for this, and we're going to have 2 of them. So I'm going to place them in like this so that we've got a slight kind of offset angle. And you'll notice me within this episode constantly diving around and checking angles, because views and aesthetics for me are really important, especially when it comes to the downtown. If you've been watching this series from the beginning, you will know that I have been obsessing over various different, and creating actually various different points where we're going to be able to view our city further down the line, and particularly that key downtown area. So we're using static ploppables just so we can drop this into the ground a little bit and just lessen that height. And I'm making them exactly the same height because I do want them to be like a pair of twin towers here. Now that it's not the most pretty building, yeah, it's definitely not the best, but it's kind of interesting shape. It's got that modern look to it. And I think once we kind of fill in the base building around it and make it seem like it's sort of connected as part of one overall building and unit at the bottom here, I think it will end up looking pretty cool. Now I do just want to distinguish between them as well and give them a little bit more uniqueness, shall we say. So we're going to head back into static ploppables, and we're going to add a radio mast onto the top of one of these buildings. So this obviously won't be functional at all, but it will give us that look of 2 distinct, slightly different looking towers, and also taking into account the fact that we saw that radio mast obviously in actual Philadelphia on the top of one of those 2 towers that we saw there. So I think I am actually going to expose the little building at the base of this. It could be like a rooftop access point, and maybe we want to recolour it away from green in future. But as we take a little step back, you can see the sort of effect that that makes. And again, that's not as tall as the Imperial State, so I think it's going to work pretty well. So coming all the way back to Few Haven here, I mean, they don't look as tall as they do up close. And yeah, I think we're going to manage by filling in around them. So this is the centre focal point. Now there is one asset that I wanted to use off the workshop as well, just to give Fewladelphia a little bit more differentiation from every other city that you might see And the one that I did land on was the FKI tower here. Now it's almost as tall as the peony buildings, but just not quite. Well, the sunken peony buildings, I should say. So I think this is going to work reasonably well. And if we place it in this spot here, I think this will give us enough separation between the towers. And also give us that slight drop down in height as we come away from the centre there. Now obviously it's kind of almost in line with the Imperial State when we look from certain angles, but it does kind of balance it out from further away as well. And we need to have that same balance on the other sides too. And this is where I'd like to add in some more of that sort of more classic US style buildings. And so far we've obviously added lots of offices, and this is also an office. So I'm thinking this is essentially the central business district right in the centre here where most of the offices will be. And then we'll start to go out to more commercial and residential towers as we go around as well. So we have this building here, this USA Northeast Extra Office High, which I think is a perfect addition. It's got that red brick to it. We might recolour it maybe if we can a little bit, just make it a touch lighter. I'm also thinking the Imperial State Building will also recolour that as well, but we can do that with a spot of detailing. So I am thinking we're going to place this in here. Now the one thing with this is the orientation of it. So this is kind of a plain side and this is a plain side. So actually I'm thinking what we will do is use move it here. And we're just going to flip that around so that it's orientated with those sort of slightly plainer sides on the sides which aren't facing those main roads, particularly this avenue road. We definitely want the doors, etc. out onto this street here. And then again, that's kind of dropping down slightly in height from the buildings that we have so far. And I think kind of complements the Imperial State Building there quite nicely at the side of it. Now there is another office that I got off the workshop that I would definitely like to incorporate into our city, and that is this, the Penobscot building, if I've said that correctly, by Darth. What an absolutely amazing asset. It's got a radio tower on the top as well. I'm loving that. And it's just got that proper US Northeast classic style that we're definitely after with a lot of our buildings here. So I'm thinking I'd quite like to place this on this corner here, so it's sort of near the JFK Love Plaza. So if we just take a little look at that and also just note around the bottom, yeah, those are the kind of closed off plain sides that we don't want out onto the streets here. And yes, we have got that wonderful frontage to it. I absolutely love that. Whether we drop it right into the corner or not, I'm not too sure. We'll leave it in place there for the moment and we can play with that once we get the rest of that block filled in. But oh yes, look at that. Absolutely love it. And I think it'll go really nicely outside the Love Plaza. Or the City Plaza, as we should call it. Now we are starting to drop down a little bit on office demand, but I think there's a couple more I would quite like to add before we're too finished with this. So we have from the Skyscrapers pack, the Corona. Love this asset. And this fits so perfectly into this block. I don't think we can really deny this placement. So we are going to place it on the edge here. And then if we just take a little step back, you can see that's starting to fill in some of the layers of height up towards those big, tall main buildings that we have there. Now from this side, it's looking a little bit naff at the moment. We definitely need to taper that on up here. But we are going to have a relatively steep decline in terms of the layer of height, and then we're going to have the odd pop in height as we come around here. And then I'm thinking we'll also have a sort of almost, not a secondary downtown, but a secondary peak in height around the waterfront across here, or somewhere around this area. So we get a little bit of an undulation to that effect. And then I definitely think we'll have some more high rises around this area as well. Just probably not as high as, obviously, our central business district. So we also have the Byzantium 2 from the Skyscrapers pack. So let's go ahead and add that in as well. Really like the layers on this one. I'm actually wondering though if we relocate this and twist it round. Yes. We can get those layers coming down away from the peak, which I just think is a nicer orientation there. We've also got this multi-story media building, which again is kind of tall, but not too tall, but has a really nice sort of US Northeast feel to it. And I think this could probably fit into this space. We might move some of these around as we come to fill out the blocks, but just to give ourselves a rough outline of what the main peaks in height are going to be. Now we are getting down to not too much office demand, so I need to be a little bit careful with that. But there is a couple of other assets I want to add. I really, really like the Stylus Tower here. I think this is a fantastic asset. And I think maybe we position this slightly further away. Oh my god, what is that colour? That needs to be changed. 100%. No. No. I'm thinking maybe something like that. is acceptable. But yes, I love that tower. And so hopefully we'll have some kind of drop off, I think, in the middle of here. And that will help to balance it around from this side. Because that's actually almost as tall, if not as tall, as the peony buildings as it stands. And interestingly, our office demand has just come up a bit. But I think it's going to go back up once we start adding in the houses. So I'm not too worried about that. The other one I did want for the moment is the Seaworth building too. Because this one in particular as well has some nice add-ons to it. So it actually gives us a city hall, which we really need. This is the first city hall that we have in the entire city. Yeah. I can't believe it's been this long. But you can also see here, this gives us a really nice framing, I think, in between the Stylus Tower and the Imperial State Building there. They're quite happy with that. And then we have a whole load of other office buildings which you could add, like the Twain Tower, definitely the Steel Building, Shrenui Shimbun office, if I've said that correctly. Definitely the Rand Tower, we definitely want this in somewhere. But I think because they're all quite a bit smaller than most of our other buildings, what we're going to do is piece them in around everything else. The Incasarium as well, really like this too. There's so many good ones. Energy Lobbying Office, also perfect for the vibe we want here. So yeah, we'll piece these in when we come to fill in the blocks around it because they're a lot lower, so they're not going to kind of impact on the main skyline. And once we've got that in and we're happy with that, then we've got something to work around. So looking at residential for a second, Century Castle. I know this is a bit of a weird choice, but because we've got the Imperial State Building, I feel like having some kind of really quirky residential building may not be a bad idea, and actually it fits into this block perfectly, so maybe this was made to happen. The Century Castle building, with the fact that it's got this kind of weird castle design on the top, is a big residential asset. So we have got, let's have a look, 451? 486 is going up. Oh, we've got 756 households in here. So that is a lot of capacity, and you can see immediately all of our medium and high density demand for residential has gone in this one tower. But I like the height of it, and I like the contrast between the sort of slightly more classic, odd, if you want to call it that, with the castle on top style, versus the big modern glass of the FKI tower. And because it's sort of similar in height, it kind of frames it quite nicely on that side, helps to spread out the area of that downtown a little bit. Because the thing with Fewladelphia is, it's actually quite a big map, so we need a reasonably sizable downtown to go with it. And already the height of these buildings is starting to look less jarring now we're filling out quite a few of them in and around it. It's all going to balance eventually. But I'm feeling quite happy with this as a starting point at least. Now, of course, all our residential demand has gone, but there was another one that I did want to pop in while we're thinking about it. I mean, there's so many options here, but we're not going to use all of them. Lighthouse Point from the Skyscrapers pack. Really like this one. And it also fills out this block really rather perfectly. And I kind of think as a transition between the Penobscot building and our City Hall area here, it gives a nice contrast. Super modern, really nice on this corner, I think, as well. But yeah, that's going to kill all of our residential demand for quite some time. So maybe we'll leave it there with the skyscrapers, just for the moment. Okay, one more. I feel like we need something in this space, slightly smaller than this building, just to balance it out a little bit. And I think the Colossal Tower is a pretty good fit here. It's sort of got a little bit of Office Evolution vibes about it, where it's got this kind of brick base with this huge glass modern extension to it. And I'm not sure I'd necessarily think that this was residential as a whole, but it does fit into this space really rather well. And then from a wider view, you can start to see what the skyline is going to look like. And it feels quite busy in there. But actually when you get up close, there is a nice spacing between the buildings. So, yeah. Pretty insane we've actually got skyscrapers in, right? And can I also just add that it is really nice to finally see some actual downtown traffic in here. Loving this. People actually using our intersections. Finally. And this dodgy, crazy one here, I mean, it's holding up for now, obviously. There's not that much traffic around it, but we've got cars coming in. It's making me feel excited. And at least this way as well, we can kind of keep an eye on what is working and what's not, because this is a pretty crazy mess of one-way streets around here. So some things will likely need tweaking as we go along. Now, having let it run for a little while, we have actually bounced back on all of our demands. So office is almost full, but residential, commercial, completely full. Now, we haven't put in any commercial towers or mixed use, I don't think, either, which will come, but I don't think there's any that are really going to kind of impact the main overall look of the skyline that we have in the centre here. Now, we'll add as well, we will be doing more high rises out towards the waterfront and kind of tailoring down in different directions as we see fit. But just focusing on the main core for today. And the next thing I want to look at is services, because as you can see here, we've already got some death care warnings happening over in the Hennepin Tower and within the convention centre. That doesn't sound too good. So of course, what we are going to want to do is get all of the main services into the downtown. So let's start from the top and we'll look at medical. And I have actually gone into the tree as well and unlocked, I think actually we'd already placed a hospital, but we haven't got actually a main police headquarters or a fire headquarters, big fire station. So I have unlocked all of those, so we've got access to them. But thinking about hospitals to start off with, there's not very many of these, which I really think fit the style. So this is one option, which is the US Northeast Hospital, which I love. If we look at the base game hospital, I don't think that's really going to fit with the vibe that we want here. And the other one is the US Southwest Hospital, which I really like. It's massive. But the other thing is the US Northeast Hospital does also have some upgrades with it, which makes it quite a bit more interesting. It has a bit of space around it. I just don't love the way the ambulances form out the front, if I'm completely honest. I feel like this one is a little bit better here. Now, we're going to have to turn on Anarchy to place this where I want, but I thought that this would look quite nice sitting with the entrance at the bottom of this main junction here. Now, I think what we will do is set this back from the road just a tiny touch so it's not quite so close, but we still want it obviously connected in this space. So something like that, which also gives us the opportunity to continue this sort of park area around the side of it as well. But also when we look at capacity, we've got 30 ambulances, 1,000 patients, and this one is actually only 350 and 20. Obviously, it does have the upgrades with it, which would bring it up to a similar amount. But we also have upgrades on this. So we have got additional ambulance bays, east and west. Oh, they add helipads and they block in these little ambulance bits as well. So I think we should probably have one of these, at least. Let's get in a medical helipad for the first time in our city. But we'll leave the other one. We don't really need that for the moment. And we can use that as we build up capacity around the downtown. But I think that's going to be quite a nice, big focal point building. It's particularly well. Can you even see it from down? Oh my goodness. Can you even see it from down in the very dodgy view highway? Yes, you can. And you can even see the helicopter taking off there. That's rather nice. Now, death care wise, I would like a big cemetery, probably somewhere on the outskirts of the town centre, but I think for the moment we kind of want to stick to probably a crematorium of some description. None of these are particularly big buildings, and we could add in the French crematorium because frankly we could kind of blend in the front of this to make it look slightly less French with a lot of row housing around it and that sort of thing. The Netherlands one just won't work. And then of course we have the base game one. Now I'm going to slightly divert and talk about plans for down here. So this whole strip here, I'm planning on doing a big green open space with a few sort of more classical colonial buildings around it. And I actually think this fits that style really perfectly. It's got those columns out the front, that sort of slightly colonial look to it. So I think that this could be integrated into our big green space down here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark some of this out. So let's just make sure we're using the same road here. We'll copy this road and let's just bring that straight down here for the moment, and that's going to frame one end of it, and then this road will frame the other end of it. And this avenue, I think we might actually continue it straight through the park potentially. So this will mark out where that space is going to be. And just to flash up the inspiration for this is this whole strip down here, which now I've forgotten the name of. Wonderful. But we have things like the Liberty Bell Centre, and we've got this Independence Square, etc., which comes down from this, and it sort of almost loops around. But when you come down, what you can see is we've got these really kind of old classic style colonial buildings in here, dotted around this whole area like this, which I really, really like the idea of. And there's an absolute ton of them in here too. So I definitely think our crematorium could act like one of these and sort of integrate within this big sort of green belt that we're going to have down at the bottom, separating the main downtown from the waterfront area. So I think what we'll do is keep it quite close to the hospital down here. Let's actually just grab ourselves an alleyway road and bring out its own little section for it. So we can just snap that in, something like that. We might need to adjust once we get the actual asset in. I mean, that's not too bad. Obviously, a ton of detailing to do around that to help that blend into this whole area. And I'm not sure if we'll finish this today. We might, but we may be coming back to this green space another time. Now, I do also want to mention as well, I'd like to have some other green spaces around the city. Heading back to Philadelphia, you can see some obvious big green blocks, like one down here, which is Washington Square. And we also have Rittenhouse Square up here, which I absolutely love looking around here. We can actually dive into first-person view just to give you a sense of what's going on. But it's a ton of trees, actually, with open green patches, shady patches in the middle of it. But then you've got this whole bricked over walkway with a big fountain. Someone's standing in the fountain there. It looks like it. In the middle with manicured sort of garden areas, little fences and stone sort of almost colonial style fences around here. So I definitely want to have one central green space area very much like this, with large wide open walkways, lots of benches, trees and little planted areas that you can see here, with different cobblestone patterns around them. That is something that we will come on to in the detailing, but I just wanted to show you the inspiration before we get there. And so I'm actually earmarking this block right here, which is next to the sort of open plaza area that we have on the side of our sunken rail area here. So I'm thinking this would make a really nice green space square at that point. And then potentially have one more down here in one of these blocks, sort of almost feeding off our big, I don't know what we're going to call it. I need some names for these areas in downtown. What should we call our big central park down here? And indeed our other smaller green spaces? Let me know in the comments below. So anyway, that's health and death care in. Let's look at fire next. And for that, I kind of think the USA Northeast Fire Headquarters is probably perfect for this. I do have slight concern it's only 7 engines versus 10 in the main one, but it's not that different, and we could always have multiple of these if we wanted to around the city. So in terms of where we should place this, I'm kind of thinking we want easy access out onto all different routes here. So we've obviously got the main avenue here, but it does have a median. We've also got this avenue coming down here. I'd like some street names as well, actually. Let me know some suggestions in the comments below as well. Obviously, for what we've got, it's Park Street at the moment, and what's this one? Dunhaven Street? Let's not leave them as those. Let me know what you think, or if we should have a naming convention across the whole downtown. So I'm thinking probably not on actually one of those, but potentially on this street here. It's quite a wide, large street, and if we put it somewhere up this side, then that means that they can then come onto what is currently Park Street and go in either direction at that point. So maybe even on this corner is actually a wise choice for it. So it's nicely snapped into that corner there, and that should work pretty well. We can also upgrade it with a helipad, so yeah, why not? I think helicopters flying around our downtown would be really rather nice to see. And then next up we've got police. So we do of course have the USA Northeast Police Headquarters, which I think would work definitely really well. But I'm also actually quite keen on the Southwest Police Headquarters, just to give us that slightly modern edge, so not everything has to be that classic US Northeast look to it. We're going to place it in here because I actually think that architectural standpoint there, where you're coming up from the highway on the slip roads up here, having that kind of curvy building and the fence sort of works there. We could just pull it back a little bit and potentially have a walkway through next to it along this side, so that we can have pedestrians running alongside the edge of the slip roads here to cross between the roads if they need to. And the other thing is here is that if they come out and they're restricted to not being able to go that way, they can just quite easily turn around here. So I think that that will work out okay. And I have just realised we need to do a tiny bit of adjusting here because that has somehow spilled into the main road. Although I'm seeing now the police are coming out onto the slip road, which is 100% not ideal. Why on earth would they do that? Why would they do that? So maybe we need a little bit more room here. Will that stop them? Yes. Okay, so we can have a spot of green space potentially in there. Okay, so coming on to education now, and I really want some sort of high density education options in here, and I'm actually thinking the city elementary school and also the city high school are probably going to be the best things for this. We do also have the Netherlands High School, which I actually really like. I think this could fit quite well. It's maybe not exactly that US Northeast style at all, in fact, but it is red brick. And it's got an awesome extension to it, which I think could work pretty well too. Now, the thing is with schooling is we kind of want to think about where we're going to put residence versus office versus commercial. So here is the plan. We're going to put most of the residential around here, around City Hall on this side. Little bits of commercial or mixed use dotted into there, but mostly residential. We'll probably mostly have offices down at this end and a bit more commercial, I think, up at this end here. And then we'll dot in some commercial down the bottom. This will again be residential up in this corner over here with some blocks of commercial mixed into it too. So with that in mind, the most ideal places for the schools would be in the residential area over here or over this side, so that it's nice and close to their homes. So thinking firstly about the City Elementary School, we may move this around a bit, but it could potentially sit here opposite the green space, this side. So let's just place that in there for now. And with the high school, I think we're going to go for the Netherlands High School. I think that's going to look pretty cool. And what we could do here is utilise some of this space by the highway, because as you can see, when we add on the upgrades to it, which, I don't know, we probably don't need, but let's just add them on anyway. In fact, we'll leave this one. Yeah, it adds a bit more student capacity. So we'll leave it for the moment and see when we need it. But particularly with that side entrance on, that's a really nice framing up against this side road and against the highway here. And then of course we're going to want mail down here too. So the Westmont Tower from the Skyscrapers Content Creator Pack would be perfect. It can also be upgraded to include a headquarters with sorting facility, which is really, really going to help, and a downtown restaurant. I love the upgrades on this building. In fact, I just love this building full stop. So I'm thinking maybe this would be quite nice next to our big park over this side. And this block, it doesn't quite fit in, but I'm wondering with a little bit of move it adjusting whether we could make this work, and potentially actually this road could be downgraded. Also noticing some of these junctions are not ideally placed, so we'll redo some of those when we come to some detailing here. But that does mean this building fits in here really nicely indeed. So let's just see about the upgrades on it. So yes, we can add another tower, and that gives us the sorting facility. Yes, it does. Wonderful. We'll definitely have that. And I also want the restaurant because I love it. And then they've got some nice views out over the park down here too. We will also need to go around and put in some mailboxes. And I'm going to try and place them on a specific route from the post office so it makes it a little bit more efficient. So that means there's mailboxes within a couple of blocks of walking from pretty much anywhere in the downtown, so that'll do quite nicely. At least the downtown core, shall we say. We've still got a lot more to cover. And then the final thing is, of course, garbage. Now, the nearest garbage processing is back over here on the outskirts of Tinney, which doesn't have particularly easy access to the downtown at all. However, I don't really want like an urban recycling centre in the middle of the downtown or anything like that. So I think for the moment we're going to leave garbage and hope that they can come out to here to collect it. We do, of course, have our much larger garbage facilities over here in the rail yard. We've also got some within Fewhaven here too. And the incinerator, which actually has really easy access onto the highway, which could get down here easy enough. So I think for the moment, garbage will be okay. But further down the line, we'll definitely be adding in a dedicated garbage area, probably somewhere near the port, I would have thought, with really easy access into this space. Alright, so before we start filling in some of these blocks as we've talked about, I do also want to mention a little bit of history and something that I've definitely spotted within Philadelphia, and that is churches. So there is an absolute ton right around the downtown here. So we've actually got two next to each other, although I think this is now a museum of sorts. Then we've got the Arch Street United Methodist Church over here. We've got the Cathedral Basilica of St. Peter and Paul. And then we've also got a temple down here. The St. Mark's Church just dotted in right next to, I mean, literally, look at that. There is a church right there. I'm imagining they were probably placed here before a lot of this development happened, but nonetheless, they're definitely there. We've also got the First Baptist Church of Philadelphia over here too, like literally right next to the central downtown. And there's an absolute ton of them. If you keep looking around, you can find so many. So I kind of want to do a little bit of something similar in Fewladelphia. So I have been onto the workshop and downloaded quite a few churches. So of course we've got the Gothic Revival Church, which we used in Beryl from Titan there. And in addition, we do also have the GIGABYTE Church, we've got the Skyscraper Church, and we've got Holy Ghost Church here too, all from the workshop. So yeah, I want to dot in a few of these just to give us that cultural historical element to our downtown. So firstly, this church here, let's just check who it's by. Prepo. The Skyscraper Church that you can find on PDX mods. Gorgeous asset, absolutely stunning. Fits really nicely into this space here as well. We'll build up in some blocks around it too. We've also got the GIGABYTE Church here. I'd like to fit this in somewhere. And some of these may move, but we're going to kind of place them in loosely for the moment, and then we'll figure it out as we go along. It actually could fit in probably quite nicely there, facing onto the back of our, well, makeshift City Hall Plaza, which we will make functional too. We also then got the Holy Ghost Church. Let's add this in over this side, so we're sort of spreading them out a little bit more. I think what I might do with this is actually squeeze it right in the middle of the block here, and we'll almost surround it by other buildings. Now again, who is this? This is Dead Hawk with the Holy Ghost Church. Shout out to you, thank you for making asset. And of course it was McWelsham with the GIGABYTE Church there. Now I think, just to complete it, that's 3 churches in already. Let's also do the Gothic Revival Church, why not? All of this back area is going to change, potentially next episode, maybe the episode after. We'll see what inspiration comes to me within each, but I think, yeah, that could probably sit quite nicely there. Alright, so that'll do for churches. Now, I do also want to address a major thing before we start filling in all of the rest of the blocks, which is transit. And of course, I've completely neglected this so far, apart from the rail. We spent a long time on that. But this tram plaza, we're going to get rid of it. Yeah. For the second or third time. I can't quite remember. But anyway, we're getting rid of it. And I actually think what we're going to do instead is add in the massive tram terminal plaza, because I just think, why not? We're going to have to adjust this road a little bit, but that's okay. So we'll place it in here for the moment. Let's delete out this street, and yeah, we'll sort that out in just a second, because wow, oh my goodness, this building is amazing. Look at the revolving doors. That just gets me so excited, honestly. I mean, they go quite fast. We are on 1 speed here, so imagine trying to run into that. It would just hit your butt and push you around. It's all in the fun of it. Anyway, yes, this is what we're going to have. Now, we do actually have some upgrades to it, and this is the reason why I quite wanted to use this. We do have the subway interface. So with this in mind, let's also add that. We can also add subway into our downtown and integrate the tram networks, which are going to extend far and wide out down here and obviously through to Tinney, where we already have some on the go already, and subway, which we haven't done yet. And I'm surprised we're actually allowed to do that, because I don't think I've even unlocked subway. I have not. So let's go ahead and do it. So of course the first thing we need to do is add in a depot. Now I'm not really too sure where I actually want this right now, I'll be honest. So that's a little bit of a problem. Now we do have Tegan's rail infrastructure packs, so we've got some smaller, more compact yards. We do also of course have city stations, and this is the one that I'm sort of leaning to because it's got that underground connection to it already, which is kind of helpful. But I'll be honest, it doesn't really give us that above ground feel that I'd quite like to have at the end of it all, which we do have when we use the actual subway yard, but this thing is massive, and again, I've not really sort of planned exactly where I want this. So I think for the moment what we're going to do is something pretty dodgy. We're just going to kind of stick this on the edge of the city somewhere. I'm thinking probably over here. So let's just check the topography a little bit here. And I think for the moment that'll do. We do need to give it road connection. So let's go ahead and do that. And I mean, this highway needs to come down. I mean, this whole area we need to fix, the rail included. So yeah, that's going to be a project for another time. But let's give it a road connection. And I think what we're going to do is unfortunately a crime against humanity, realistically. And we're just going to tunnel this under for the moment. And bring it back out over here. So just close your eyes. Just close your eyes for a moment and imagine that all is normal. that won't stay. That's all I'll say. But anyway, we have got a subway yard connected in with water and power, so we can start actually thinking about where our subway network's going to go. So I definitely think we want a station at the back of our city hall right here. And I know in real life Philadelphia, many of you pointed this out, there is indeed a subway station at this point. So I think that this would be really nice and appropriate here. Now this would also have easy access to this residential area if we place it at this side of it. So let's go ahead and drop that in. And this one has got quite a nice large plaza at the top of it. So I think we can do some stuff with the random hedges there. We'll see to that. Now I definitely think we also want a spot right in our central business district here next to our big offices. So something potentially that could be integrated into the P&E building block. Now, I don't know if we want to go for the really tiny subway interface at this point or maybe something a little bit bigger. I do really like this one that Bad Peanut created and added to the workshop, which kind of matches the City Stations content creator pack, which I think you do actually need to have in order to download this asset, just to be clear. But which design do we want to go for? That's the next question. I think let's go for this one. Nice and simple, and we can sort of integrate that into that block. So that'll give people connections right into the centre. And the lines will kind of figure out a little bit as we go on. So we've got one at the transit hub, one for the residential over here, one for the central business district this side. I think one in this space would probably be quite worth it. I mean, we've got the high school there, so that would definitely make sense to try and service that. So can we squeeze in a little subway station around the side of it? Maybe we make a walkway through down to the back of the high school here and add that in at this point. Yeah, let's do that. And then finally, could be worth having one close to the hospital. So I'm wondering, can we squeeze in this one behind? Yeah, probably not. We could do it opposite the hospital. That is going to drive a lot of pedestrian traffic over the road where our ambulances are coming out though, which isn't the most ideal thing. So it could actually squeeze in right next to the hospital here, which would also give nice access to the park at this point as well. Now, the lines are going to be a little bit more tricky, so I'm thinking we're definitely going to have one that's coming out from this space, which will hit the back of the City Hall, and then I think loop into the transit hub this side. Maybe it's worth, in fact, now I'm thinking about it, let's make this a proper transit hub and actually have another subway station in here so that we're getting use of two different lines without them overlapping and crossing. So I'm going to grab a pedestrian road and we're going to make sure this is right in the middle of our convention centre so things line up really nicely here. Yep, and let's bring that out like that. And then on this we can add in another subway station. Let's do that. So slight change of plan. I think we're going to connect this stop into the downtown, into this stop connected to the tram terminal, and then we'll connect this one into the back of the City Hall into our new tram plaza opposite the terminal. And then this line eventually can feed on out this side, and I think from the hospital we'll probably have another stop down here, and that'll be the end of the line by the art gallery this side, and then it will loop back round to feed out into these areas. Alright, so that gives us our current subway lines. But like I said, pretty sure all of that is going to change quite dramatically once we start expanding out around the downtown and the surrounding areas and adding new stops. We're going to change up the lines, but at least we've got stops in places that we know mean something, and we can develop the lines and change the lines from there. Now, of course, we've got trams here too. Now, I'm actually going to come back to that because I think we've got the road network in. We can kind of tweak things around to get tram stops where we want to, but I'd quite like to get in the buildings first and then see where the tram stops are going to fit in around that. So, yes, let's go and fill in our massive downtown core. So we're going to kick off with the residential block over this side, utilising a lot of the US Northeast region pack assets for this, also dotting in pocket parks as appropriate, leaving our main block for the big green space in the middle, and also adding a couple of little bits of quirky commercial here or there too.
make sure they have their belongings on them at all times. Any unattended baggage will be taken by police.
It's really starting to shape up, isn't it? Oh my goodness. So yes, we have several blocks of largely residential in. So I have kind of concentrated some mixed use around some of the main arterial roads. So for example here, and also going down this wider street this side, we've got a little bit more mixed use along here in these buildings, for example, where we've got that 4-lane street. Where we're on the narrower streets, I've kind of got less of it, but we do have some commercial mixed in here and there. So we have a steakhouse on this corner, And then we also have a little arts and drafts bar tucked into this spot here, which I did extend round into the back of one of these condos here. So you can see actually someone sat at one of the tables because they are actually attached to that block of apartments at that point there. And I've just kind of divvied off the little back area. So it's almost like there's seating in the front and then you can walk all the way around to the back. Because whilst looking around Philadelphia, I did actually spot a weird place like this that had skeletons outside. And now for the life of me, of course, I can't find it again. But yeah, there we go. We've got a trendy little neighbourhood bar and a steakhouse in that corner. So yes, I have mostly used US Northeast Pac buildings, but there's a few others dotted in. So we've got the odd Chinese building actually in this block here. We've also got some Southwest US and a couple of base game here or there, but yeah, not too many. Not too many. So we've left this bit clear for our big green space as mentioned, and then we have just done a bit of back alley work here. Little bit of graffiti, making sure we've got walking paths coming through and spots of parking. So we do have in one of these some underground, yes, here, an underground parking lot. We've got a little playground, for example, there, walkway through onto the next road. And I have also added in a larger parking lot over this side. So we need to go round at some point and sort out all of the roads, like take off parking in certain places, add street trees, probably do a bit of road builder work, particularly when we come round to add in the actual tram networks as well. We need a lot of work on the roads, but for the moment I'm sort of leaving that. But I do want to make sure we've got pretty ample parking around the place. I did also add in a majestic cinema because I really like this shot. If we come down here, this road coming off the main National Diet Building square, we come down and we see the corner of the cinema. Quite like that. So yeah, just a few little odd things dropped in. Another car park there. But yeah, I think that kind of largely covers it. I have got the odd pocket park here and there as well. So like here at the back of the church, for instance. There's actually functional area there. And like we mentioned, the playground, there's a few other places in there too. Now, one other thing to note is I did actually swap out the workshop building that I had in here, the workshop skyscraper, because I really didn't like the base of it when I looked at it closely. And I thought it was okay when I was testing, but yeah, I've changed my mind. So we've gone for the waveform tower instead, which is a bit more population. So we've actually gone up about 14,000 just with this part of residential in here. So quite a lot. We do have some traffic issues as well. As you can see here, people trying to get into the car park. I'm pretty sure, yeah, the car park's full, 97% usage. So we're having some issues at this point, which is basically blocking up the entire roundabout area here. So I might need to and all the way, oh wow, and all the way back here. We have some major downtown traffic. There we go. We'll come back to that though. We'll come back to that because we still have an awful lot of other things that I want to try and get done in this episode. And particularly this central part here with the offices and maybe a bit of commercial going up Dunhaven Street. Again, let me know your suggestions there. And we've got to blend in some of these skyscrapers as well. So these two, the Peony Towers, are not functional because we've obviously sunk them into the ground a little bit just to lessen the height a tiny bit. So we're going to need to make these functional and add some, well, functionality around it to make it seem busy. If we just start off with the Imperial State Building over here. So what I quite like to do here is use the Rand Tower unique building. Now I think this is from PDX Mods. Yes, by Detective 93. This is a gorgeous asset and I think it fits with the Imperial State Building quite well. So what I'm thinking that we do is actually use two of these, and it'll become clear in a second. If we just sink them back into these sections of the building, because we've got doorways here, we've got an archway around this side, and if we just utilise this space in the middle, it fits kind of perfectly in there. Same goes for this side as well. So something like that, and that gives us this sort of central courtyard plaza area. We just zoom out a little bit. It gives it quite an interesting design, I think, from top down. So what we do want to do is obviously make sure they're all connected to the road. So let's just drag these forward a little bit till they're connected. This one will stay connected because it was right up against the road anyway, and giving it a bit of breathing room for a building of this size I think would be quite important there. And then that gives us kind of a pretty cool design, I think, in front of that. What I would like to do though is change the colour of the Imperial State Building if we can. I'm not 100% sure if... Oh yes, wow, okay, we can. I would kind of like to make it a little bit more similar to this colour. It's maybe slightly more on the orange side, something like that. So it's a little bit less sort of blue-grey and more of this. Yeah, that actually matches quite well. Might have got that first time. But yeah, that feels a little bit more consistent now for the building. And then down here we've got some lovely areas that we can do some open plazas, some sculptures, some fountains perhaps. In this space we need to tidy up a lot of those surfaces there, but I also think as well up against this avenue that we have, that's really quite a nice framing with the grand entrances here, but also having access to the back of the Imperial State Building and seeing the height of it from the street. So that's that one. But for the Peony Towers, what I would like to use is some of the Northeast US office assets to kind of create a bit of a cohesive look around the base of this building. So there's some really good ones here with these modern ones, and they come in different sizes too, so we can create some sort of interesting designs I think out of that. And I think it suits the modern glass that we have on the Peony building pretty well too. Now again, I would just like to play with the colour of these I think a little bit, and yeah, that's not too bad. So we just want to go round and plot a few of these in and get a feel for what this might look like as one block. And then what we want to do is use a lot of Move It to sort of blend these into the side of the building and also, of course, each other as well. So that looks fairly cohesive with a few little odd blocks here or there. But what I would also like to do is make it seem like it's one kind of overall complex with lots of different layers, let's face it, these buildings. So to do that, what we are going to do is use a piece of pedestrian bridge. I think we'll use this one, and what we'll do is we'll actually go from this Peony Tower, I think, out across to this building here. Now we want to make sure that the layers are going to be correct for this, so we need to grab those nodes and just shift this bridge up so it kind of makes sense with where the floors are sitting, which is going to be really hard because these buildings don't line up. But that might not be too bad. And then we can see what we can do with a decal for a door for each side. Now that kind of works quite well. I don't know if we try and attach this path, whether we're actually going to have major issues with with these buildings, but I'm going to try and give it a go. It seems to have worked there, so people could technically walk from the front of this building across through here, and then maybe we'll have them come out this side. So hopefully, if people actually want to take that route, we might actually see pedestrians crossing the little overpass bridge here, which I think will be pretty cool. But yeah, there we go. That is the sort of peony complex that we want in there. We've got a lot of space to fill around it, and what I might do actually is just drop one more in here to sort of fill this out this side. Like, I love how these buildings blend together, and that'll do pretty nicely. Now of course we have absolutely zero office demand right now because I've just plopped in a load of massive offices. We'll have to see how these do. What's the latest one that I put in? Hasn't got any workers yet, so yeah, we'll need to keep an eye on that. Okay, so we have an absolute ton of offices in, and by some miracle, we still have a small amount of office demand. So I just thought I'd check what our unemployment is, and it's down to 8.7%. And we were at 74,000, so we've gained about 19,000 now in terms of population in our downtown, which doesn't seem like enough this size of development, but it is what it is. Now, I did just think as well, education, how are we doing on that? And as you can see, we're kind of struggling. But if we take a look at our elementary school, we're not actually full here. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. And same goes for our high school. We've still got quite a lot of capacity. So people aren't actually using these. So it seems like we filled up elsewhere in the city, which is a bit of a problem. So we might need to go through and do some operating districts for our schools and maybe tidy that up a little bit. But the other thing I did realise as well is we don't actually have a college down here, which I think would be quite good to add because we're fairly low on capacity. Same goes for university. We're definitely going to have a university down here. And actually, on that subject, the Karuna, this building upgrades into a university if we ever wanted to. So that potentially could be useful further down the line, but we're not going to put a university for now, but we are going to drop in a college. And I really, really like this Netherlands Auditorium College. It only has a capacity of 750, so it's not massive. But just the style of it, I think, you know, in and around our churches and things like that, and particularly our colonial sort of area that we're going to have down here. I know it's not exactly colonial style, but older historic, shall we say? I think it might sit on this corner quite well. So we're just going to pop it in there for now. Now we are going to come back to some of these areas, I think, another time because, yeah, this is taking quite a long time to plop in and we still need to go through and detail all of our different office areas here. But just to point out a few things, we have added in the energy lobbying office and the steel building from the supply chains content creator pack. We've also got the Brunswick Corner building and the Frankfurt Court from Office Evolution. And we have added in a ton of other Office Evolution buildings. So yeah, it's pretty cool when you go down to street level around some of these areas. I think it's starting to come together. Obviously this whole part here needs detailing. We need street trees. We need to, yeah, do a lot with it. But we're starting to get to feel like a city at least, and quite a packed in one at that. I've done a little bit of building fusing here and there. So like here, these Office Evolution buildings are actually going into the side of the steel building. And then out the back here, we'll have a plaza area, dropped in a couple of pocket parks, which will need detailing around them to form this into a main plaza. We have then fused together a whole bunch of northeastern office buildings here to create a block, and similarly here, just to create one nice, interesting, layered building, which will sit on the edge of our park this side. But anyway, it is starting to come together. So we do need to do detailing around these areas. I also do want to go ahead and put in this park here. And then we'll come back and see if there is anything else to do today. We are getting... Oh, I've added in another underground parking spot here. I mean, the parking is a problem. We've got so many people wanting to park and not enough car parking spaces. I am wondering if we should bite the bullet and add in the massive one. Do we almost act like a bit of a park and ride and put it somewhere here near the highway exit? Maybe. Could be the answer. I've got a few ideas of certain buildings that I want to have around here as more of a historical district, like maybe government buildings and that sort of thing, that kind of style at least. I'm not really too sure I want to go ahead and add an automated parking, hugely modern kind of skyscraper building into that space. A park and ride option would probably be quite good. So somewhere around this side. Maybe even here if we shift those roads around a little bit. So yeah, it has 416 vehicle spaces. How much does our underground parking, for example, have? Just curious, actually. 280. So it's not actually significantly more than that. We can upgrade this though, can't we? Oh, no, we can't. I mean, we could have this on the edge of the city. Maybe. I mean, this whole area in front of here is going to be filled out. Like I said, I think we're going to move the train station behind here, and we'll definitely have quite a lot of high packed in buildings around that space. So it's not going to stand out quite like how you see it now. It's very turquoise. Yeah, let me know what you think about that. Or what would solve our parking crisis, as it seems to be at the moment. Anyway, let's go and finish these office blocks and the park. Alright, so we have a good start to our downtown inn. And I'll be honest, I did not realise that there was a chimney on the top of this building from the supply chains pack, but I kind of like it in a way. It doesn't look too heavily industrial smoke, I don't think. But yeah, so here we go. We have done this side of the downtown at least. Like, there's obviously some still major holes to fill at the back of the National Diet Museum. All of these blocks across here, down this side, this entire thing needs doing. The trams need doing, and the transport plaza, which I haven't done. I was going to do, but I haven't done. Only because I'm still really not sure about what to put here. Some flash of inspiration will come to me, and we will create it. Soon, I promise. But I did also realise, of course, that we can actually upgrade these underground subway stations to include additional platforms in other directions, so maybe there's something to play there with that too. And if we just take a little look at our subway usage, there is essentially hardly any. So here we've got 2 passengers on that subway train. Wonderful. And this one we have 15. Excellent. We have gone up almost 20,000 in terms of population though, so at some point there's going to be some usage on our undergrounds, and particularly when we extend this network further out. I think at the moment it's really heavily confined just to the inner city workings here, and oh dear, we're getting not enough customers already. Wonderful. Now our office demand has decreased to absolutely nothing now, but we do still have really strong residential demand, and I mean this whole area was going to be residential anyway. We're obviously going to have a ton more residential anyway, so perhaps that's what we come on to next time, along with actually putting in some trams and finishing off finally the back of our pretend city hall area here and actually getting some functionality around it. But yeah, we've got some pretty cool things in already, so like if we take a little look at this park here, really pleased with this. We've got a whole ton of people walking through it. I put loads of invisible paths around it. We've actually got some pocket parks in the middle, which, to be honest, I might remove because they kind of look quite bad. I got rid of the ugly fountains in the middle of them and replaced them with these big planters, but I don't like the formation of the benches. I just wanted something that was functional in here, but it doesn't seem like we need it because there's just so many people walking through this park at the moment that, yeah, it's pretty cool. Really like how this came out, taking inspiration from, of course, the Roosevelt Square, I think it was. And then a couple of other things to note on our offices. With the Imperial State building here, we just got some street trees along the front. Come down to Street View as well, actually. You can see the sort of height of these buildings and the stature. Oh, yeah. Really pleased with how this is looking so far. Tons of busyness on the street. But I was actually thinking with this building that what we would do is kind of pretend that this is the main entrance over here. So I did actually use some of the Netherlands, I think it's part of the crematorium, sort of memorial wall things, sunk them right into the ground to frame the edge of this fountain / pond water feature thing here, going into the main entrance to the Imperial State building. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that. And then we've just added in planters and things around it, but definitely thinking this is the main entrance for sure, not the actual entrance right out onto the street. Because really like the interesting kind of nature of that building in there. And then, yeah, we just sort of tidied up around all of the buildings really, added in a ton of like little planters and benchy, seaty feature things. Maybe one day, hopefully, we can actually get functional props and people will actually sit at our benches, but for the moment, they're bare, they're there as decoration. But yeah, that was kind of largely it. We've got lots and lots of street trees in all around the whole area, pocket parks placed in throughout too, tons of little random back alley stuff here and there. We've also got this whole plaza here, which has a couple of pocket parks, nice and functional, a few food trucks and that sort of thing. I've also added in quite a bit of bike parking around the place as well, which is getting some, well, that one's not getting any usage, but yeah, there's a bike there. It is getting some usage. And hopefully, again, once we make this a bit busier around here, a bit more fleshed out around the downtown, and of course connect it into the rest of the city, I think we should see quite a bit of bike usage actually in the end. Now the other thing I wanted to show you was here around around our station and our city hall. Oh my god, there is a lot of people, a lot of people. So if we take a look down in our station, in our platform here, you can see, yeah, I mean, there's quite a few people waiting. So the trains are definitely working really nicely. It's just the subway isn't getting a huge amount of demand right now. We also have quite a few people actually waiting at our bus station to add here too. So you can see, yeah, a few of them waiting for the bus at the back there. Kind of nice. But there we have it. We have an absolute ton more work to do on our downtown, but we have a start. But for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares are really greatly appreciated. I want to give a huge shout out to my wonderful Patreons and YouTube members. I've been planning this downtown for an awfully long time and you guys have really helped me with tons of inspiration and ideas, so thank you so much. Particular shout out to Thomas Campus, our Fewniverse mayor. Thank you so much for the insane support. And if you want to get involved in the Fewniverse, you can find links to Discord or YouTube membership in the description of this video. But that is all from me for now. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.